Back to the CHF Overtime Podcast. Jordan DeLuciano here for the third and final interview of the day. And joining me now is the Commissioner of the New England Independent Hockey Conference, Jay Turcotte. Jay, thanks for popping on the podcast.
Jordan, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. So let's talk about the big elephant in the room, but in a good way though, is out of your conference, Babson, winners of the first ever CHF Fed Cup. How's it feel to have the first Fed Cup coming home to your conference?
Well, Jordan, it's pretty exciting. It's funny. Last season, the NEIHC was a relatively new conference, and I don't think anybody really knew what to expect from our teams. And Babson, from the get-go, was one of the better teams across the CHF landscape. And fortunately or unfortunately, geography kind of limited their access to some of the other programs that are normal, front runners. So nobody really had a feel for what they were about until they actually had the opportunity to run into them at the Fed Cup. And the Fed Cup, truth be told, was a pretty level playing field. Babson came in, played great hockey, real consistent hockey from day one till the championship, and swept through the group. And the talented guys, student run. Nate Altoff, graduated senior, ran the program and did a phenomenal job. And his guys all bought into what they were doing. And it comes from Babson, and really the NEIHC is from the heart. A very rich hockey area right around central and northern Massachusetts, right outside Boston. So they're not short on good players. Matt Baldino came in as their head coach last year, and he did a terrific job steering the boat.
Yes, good system. They all play a very good structure with a very good goaltender, and that's a recipe for success. And they want up winning. So Babson was the unknown going to the tournament. We all know about them now, but what did you know about them last year going to the tournament that we didn't know that we found out eventually?
Well, the funny thing is, in the NEIHC, we have teams that are regular participants in postseason play. Plus, we had some new teams that had some real quality squads. Mass Maritime is a team that every year seems to be on the if not a league champion, finding a way to get a Fed Cup bid. Anna Maria, which is another one of our schools who was actually the second place school in the conference last year, is another program that has an NCAA program and they kind of get the runoff, the guys they want to keep on campus and maintain some contact hockey wise. And they and Babson went toe to toe all season, and that those guys, once I saw a few of those games, and then I have regular conversations with, the head coaches or the commission or the club presidents, really. In some cases, that's the driving force. But those guys gave me a good read on what their opponents were about. UNH was another program that really stepped up, and they were a good source. They're the guy who ran their program, Wes Coonan, another graduating senior. We emailed a couple 2-3 times a week, and it wasn't always just business. Sometimes it was, hey, these guys are this, these guys are that. That's a good team. It gave me a little insight. Unfortunately, I manage the conference remotely. I'm about 7 hours south of the NEIHC, so I had to rely on a lot of secondhand information. But conveniently for me, they were spot on.
Nice. And one of the teams you mentioned there was a team I wanted to talk about, like that Anna Maria team. You look at the games against Babson last year; they were right there with them in all their games against them. But then they didn't show up to the Fed Cup. Don't know why. If it's anything, anything you can keep it off screen. But are we going to see more exposure from that team, from that college, should I say, this season?
I think probably not this season. It remains to be seen. One of the issues, and I don't want to say an issue, Anna Maria has chosen a different path. They utilize their CHF team almost as a JV team for their NCAA program. Like I said, the guys that are cuts, the hard cuts, or the guys that are recruited that don't actually make the NCAA team comprise that CHF team. And at Anna Maria, they have a very distinct desire for the season. They want to play their conference schedule, which they did. And they're as good as anybody. I mean, I think they were in the top 15 for 3/4 of the year last year. You know,
Okay.
they're a quality program, great coaching. Once again, not short on talent, but they haven't decided if they want, when the NCAA season ends, they want hockey to kind of end. So the CHF season kind of mirrors their NCAA program. So when that season winds down, they weren't really prepared to go beyond that.
Gotcha.
And they're considering it to become more of a full round commitment to making the Fed Cup, playing postseason play, as opposed to just in conference play.
Yeah. What division for NCAA? 3 or 1?
3. I think they're D3. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure of the league name, truth be told, because I don't think they're in the same. I'm assuming they're in the same league as Babson's D3 team, but
Gotcha.
I wouldn't take that to court on me.
Mm-hmm. You know, that's a similar situation on a team like Niagara. They got an NCAA team, so you get that trickle-down effect of players that come down from the NCAA squad to the club hockey squad. That was just one that rang a bell. So there's definitely some talent. There's got to be some talent on that Anna Maria team that, like I said, the trickle-down effect from the NCAA guys that don't make the cut. Still pretty good players that would wind up playing in the CHF. So this, I believe it's the weekend at the end of the month. Looking at it, just one team. Mass Maritime's got Quinnipiac, and they got Binghamton. So that's 2 games already out of conference. Any out of conference play from the New England teams throughout the season or coming up shortly that you're looking forward to?
Well, yeah, I know Babson at the turn of the year is headed down to Quinnipiac. I think the Empire is hosting a number of teams, Babson being one of them. I'm not sure if Mass Maritime is making that trip, but Mass Maritime is pretty aggressive. I mean, the good thing about Mass Maritime is they're more experienced at this than some of these guys, and I don't mean hockey wise. The thing with the NEIHC last season was, besides Mass Maritime and Nichols, 2 teams that had been around for a couple of years, we brought in teams that had been independent programs before to play in a league, which they've never really had the opportunity to do. Mm-hmm. So there's boxes to check off and things that are learned over the course of time. And as the season goes on and as we add seasons to the NEIHC, everybody just gets a little more savvy with what they're doing. Gotcha. The Empire teams, Farmingdale, Quinnipiac, Fairfield, they've all been reaching out. And I'm not sure, I hate to say, I don't have Babson's schedule in front of me, but I do know they've got at least a home and away with Farmingdale. And I know they're going to the Quinnipiac showcase in January. Gotcha. Mass Maritime along the same lines. So, there are some restrictions too. Unfortunately, as you know, with college hockey, certainly club hockey, dollars and cents is always a big factor. Yep. And, I've got a lot of teams interested in doing all of it, traveling all over the region to play. But, some have limitations financially. Mm.
Yeah, I was gonna want to ask you. We kind of touched upon it with Babson. Everyone got to see what they were about, winning the Fed Cup. So was there a lot of teams calling throughout this offseason asking, can we get a look at Babson? We'll travel there, or they come to us.
Yeah, it's funny because last season, since nobody really knew what Babson was about, it was pretty radio silent. But with their success, and really the one good thing with Babson is it's one of those funny things that success breeds attention. So the school itself, while they acknowledge that they had a club program, winning the conference, winning the national championship at the Fed Cup, all of a sudden the administration at Babson is a little more supportive. And I don't mean all of a sudden. I mean, the focus has brought that attention to them. Yeah. So they realize that they have some opportunity. So I know Babson's getting around to play some out of conference games, as well as people from the outside the conference. I mean, some of the College Hockey South guys reached out to me, but that's more of a journey than I think anybody's prepared to make from
going down there.
From Georgia to Boston is a big journey, and vice versa. But the Northeast teams, the teams from the U and the teams from the Empire are pretty active about reaching out and playing the better teams in the NEIHC because it's a benefit for everybody, rankings wise and really insight wise as you head into the Fed Cup.
Mm. So now looking at your the conference now, is it safe to say it's a small group of teams, like the number wise of teams in the NEIH? Any plans, any idea to give the league more exposure and maybe bring on some new teams down the line? And have you brought on some new teams already?
Yeah, it's a funny thing, and the plans are always in action and work somewhere somehow. Um, the area that the NEIHC is located has tons of hockey, and some of them play for other organizations, some of them don't play for any organization at all. And we're always actively reaching out to somebody that we get a tip on. Our guys play people, say, hey, what about this guy? Here's this guy's email, see what he's doing.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem in the world reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, here's what we have, here's what the CHF and the NEIHC has to offer. The exposure, I mean, for us, I think the best thing is that within the conference, everybody has bought in completely to the NEIHC and the CHF. So that group, that cluster of programs, helps promote itself throughout the region.
Okay.
We did bring in some new teams this year. I mean, we had some transfer. I mean, Sacred Heart moved to the second conference in the Empire.
Yes.
And Rhode Island College was almost on board this season, which would have been great. We would have been up to 8, but at this point we have 7. Quincy College is a brand new program. I think this first year they're going to do okay, but their administration and their coach are committed to making the program work. So I expect Quincy to have some real traction as the seasons go on. Mm-hmm. Brown, frankly, fits the same profile that Anna Maria and Babson fit. They are essentially the guys that aren't playing on the NCAA roster.
Okay.
And it's got a different level of administration. I mean, each school has its own way of doing things. But I expect Brown to be very successful. They played a lot of the same teams that Babson and Anna Maria and Mass Maritime played last year, with a varying level of success. They would have been in the mix last year if they had gotten everything together in time. So it's exciting to have new teams, and we have all kinds of plans.
Yeah.
How quickly we can enact them and how quickly everybody buys into them are always questions.
So you mentioned before how the Babson administration, there was eyes on the club team, but then when they had success winning the conference and the success winning the entire league, the CHF, those eyes got even bigger and they got multiplied. A lot more people, a lot more attention and times now being taken on the club Babson team. Do you think that also had a trickle-down effect on the entire New England Independent Hockey Conference? Other teams and other colleges and their administration say, hey, this team and this conference that our club team plays in, they just won it all. So yeah. It's the real deal, right?
Well, one of the things I think, Jordan, that happens too is once the teams are involved in a conference for a couple of years, they realize that here's a commitment, here's some structure that we can operate within, and that you get a coach that's got some ambition to put together a good hockey program, and that internally at almost every school seems to fuel the focus and fuel the commitment to that program. And it's, in some cases, for us with the NEIHC, a number of our programs had been, student run. And not that there's no indictment in that. Mm-hmm. It's those guys stepped up and made something work. And whether they brought a coach on themselves or they coached the team themselves, those opportunities, once schools see a commitment from a portion of the student body, especially ice hockey in New England, it's a pretty gimme. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take long for the administration to say, hey, let's kind of get behind this. Let's see if we can help these guys out. And in some instances, some schools have more resources to do more or less. But I think the commitment organizationally and certainly from all the schools involved is strong, and I think it can only get stronger as the teams continue to play and succeed.
Yeah, we saw what happened. Who Babson beat in the finals was Binghamton, another student-run team just like Babson. And I believe it was like the president or the dean of Binghamton of the school shut down the school so everyone can have eyes on that championship game. So it's amazing. These student-run teams and these club sports are really pulling the attention. Like, hey, if you don't want to look, you didn't want to maybe look that much at us, but now we're really pulling your arm. And so Oh, sorry. We're going ahead. Go ahead.
That's right. No, I was going to say, well, actually, the same thing happened at Babson. And I found out after the fact because unfortunately I had to leave the Fed Cup before the championship game to go back to work.
Yeah.
So I missed the championship game. But I was the message was relayed to me that in the same instance, the club team had such success and was doing so well that they essentially put it on every open television across the campus. So the game was being played in every TV, whether it's in a classroom, in a lobby, in a lounge, whatever. That game was on for the semifinal game and the championship game were on for the entire length of the game,
awesome.
Which is, to me, is remarkable that somebody will step out and make that kind of a commitment to the program.
Yeah. I should have been. Hopefully I was on my A game calling that game then, because I had a lot of people watching at Babson, a lot of people watching at Binghamton. Hopefully I did well enough in that championship game.
Yeah. I saw it. I saw the broadcast, and you did a wonderful job. It was exciting for me, although I was sitting at my desk at work, and not to tell my boss, but try to slip a little hockey in the course of a business day. But
yeah. So, but thank you though. But so you mentioned a couple teams within your conference alone that have NCAA programs, and how important you think that is moving forward in the future, that there's NCAA players that they're not making the cut there, but they come down to club hockey and they realize, you know what? Club hockey people might give it a bad rep, but when you play it, it's just as competitive. It's just as intense, and it's that much it's still as enjoyable as NCAA hockey.
Yeah. It's funny. And that's not the first time that's come to fact. I mean, the reality, certainly with club hockey today, regardless of what school you are and where it is, I mean, the level of play is exceptional. I mean, because the reality is, yes, you're getting, whether you're getting the runoff from an NCAA program, which a lot of schools do, or you have kids that have played junior somewhere or played a high level of competitive hockey, are going away to school. Hockey players never want to stop playing hockey.
Yeah.
And it's something in the ice, something in the atmosphere. Hockey's that kind of a game. And the reality is there's a lot of great hockey players out there. And this is an outlet. This is an opportunity, certainly for the CHF to offer those opportunities to continue to play the game you love. Mm-hmm. And at a high level, certainly.
Yeah, because players, they might want to just run to the NCAA logo just for the saying, hey, I play NCAA hockey, but they're not getting the most experience out of it. And they come here and they see, I play club hockey. I watch it all the time now because I work in the league. It's intense. Guys take it just as serious. It's very legit. So before I let you go, your conference, the New England Independent Hockey Conference, any team from last year you see making maybe not a big jump or a substantial, decent jump and improving this year that may not have had things go their way last year?
Well, I certainly I think Babson will be a player once again, because the commitment is strong there. UNH has a new management team because they graduated their guys, but they also have a pretty strong commitment. But at the end of the day, I think the team that's going to take the biggest jump, not taking the new teams aside because they're kind of hard to gauge, would be Mass Maritime. They're a consistently involved team, always tremendous organization, tremendous support from the school, and they in turn play a terrific aggressive brand of hockey. And I think if anybody's going to make a jump, and not that they need to jump very far, they did very well last year. By the way, I apologize. Willow Turcotte wants to be in on the podcast.
It happens. Why it happens.
I'm ignoring her, but yeah, I think Mass Maritime really is going to be the player. Although, I based upon all the conversations I've had with coaches so far, I think everybody really wants to just evolve and become better. So I think. But I really, if anybody's going to step up, I think Mass Maritime will be the player, the surprise guy, if there is one.
Oh, nice. Good stuff. Good stuff, Jay. Well, thank you for popping on for your first time on the podcast. I appreciate it. Good information. Good stuff. Everyone will appreciate it. So once again, my name is Jordan Luciano. That will wrap it up for all the interviews today for the CHF Overtime Podcast. Very soon, we're going to be getting some players from across the CHF on the pod. Once again, thanks, Jay Turcotte. Thanks, John Rochester. And thanks to Andy Musto, who came on first today. I'll see you all next week, Jay. Have a good night.
Thanks, Jordan.